Hey there, lovely people. Welcome to Be Your Best You with Tash and Becky, your go-to hangout for all things spiritual, subconscious, and downright magical. We're here to sprinkle a little mystical wisdom into your everyday life and help you level up your reality.
Picture this as your cosmic coffee date, where we chat about the unseen world, blend in some psychology vibes, and stir up the subconscious magic. Get ready to be the queen of your own reality, live a life that lights you up, and have a blast doing it.
So grab your latte or your tea and let's dive into another episode of Be Your Best You, where the mystical meets the mundane and your best life awaits.
Cheers to creating magic together.
Let's do this. Welcome to another episode of Be Your Best You with Tash
and Becky.
And today we are going to be asking you, are you living with a victim mentality?
Oh, interesting.
This can be an interesting conversation, can't it? Because I think it can trigger a few people. It can be a bit of an uncomfortable conversation, and but we don't mind. We love the uncomfortable conversations, don't we? Because it's where you grow and you learn more about yourself.
Yeah.
In the uncomfortable
That's
stuff.
right.
Yeah.
And Tash will definitely make you think, as she has me this morning, think deeper about this victim mentality and whether there's some of it going on in your life. So we'll see.
So let's talk about the obvious kind of thoughts that come to mind when you say victim mentality.
Yes.
So Bex, what would you, when I say, well, let's we had this conversation this morning, didn't we? So when I say victim mentality, what is it that you think of?
Right. Well, I would automatically think of someone, woe is me. Why does this always happen to me? There's nothing good in my life. That is how I view victim mentality. But as you've pointed out to me this morning, it does actually run a lot deeper than that. And I have now discovered that I was living in victim mentality. Who knew?
And the thing is that I think we all are living in victim mentality to a certain extent, some more than others. And the more kind of conscious you become, the more self-aware you become, the more you dive into this self-development journey, your spiritual journey, because I think they're very much linked. You can become less and less a victim. But as with everything in this kind of world, you're never done. There is always more to learn. There is always more growth. And every step you take, something new will come up for you to work with. But the great thing is that when you have the awareness and when you start realizing that you are in control, you can take action and change it. So it becomes easier as you go along. But again, I say it all the time, you don't know what you don't know. It's like with you, isn't it?
That's right.
You would have said, I think you did say this morning, no, I can't think of any examples of where I've lived in victim mentality mode. And then but so yes, this kind of very basic explanation of victim mentality is when people just basically think that everything is happening to them. So at the moment, you want to ask yourself, do you hear yourself saying an awful lot? He made me feel that way. She made me feel like this. He made me angry. He made me feel anxious. All of these things. So when you are blaming or putting responsibility on other people for the way that you feel, you can pretty much guarantee that you're living with a victim mentality or with a victim mindset. And listen, like, this is not any kind of blame. This is not, saying that you're a victim and you're an awful person. It is not about that. It is just something that us humans,
I was going to say, it's a very human thing to do, isn't it?
It really is. And again, it stems back from childhood and the way that you kind of made the world mean to you and all these beliefs that you picked up from yourself. And a lot of it actually comes down to trauma survival. And this word trauma would definitely need to do a podcast
Yes.
episode on trauma, because trauma is not what you think it is.
No.
And we won't go into that now, but
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing, isn't it? But you know, this victim mentality and mindset can really come from you being a child and trying to survive a traumatic situation.
Yeah.
But anyway, like I said, the first thing is to acknowledge it and be aware that you're doing it. So if you're finding yourself putting responsibility onto your external world, then you want to start looking at that and always ask yourself, how am I able to change this? Why am I allowing this person to make me feel this way?
Yes.
So, and this is what, you know, I still do it now. And I've been practicing this for 4 years.
Yeah.
But still, if I start feeling triggered by someone, and what do we mean when we say triggered? Like, you feel an emotion.
Defensive.
Yeah.
Is one
An
of
emotion
mine.
that feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Like something that you don't want to feel. It's a negative emotion. So yeah, defensiveness, that's a real big one. Resentment, anger,
Yeah.
Frustration,
Yeah.
any of those kind of vibrations, energetic vibrations along that line, that's a trigger. And so whenever you feel that, you have to ask yourself, why am I feeling that? What's going on with me?
Yeah.
What is this person reflecting back to me about myself?
Yeah.
And, you know, that might sound a little bit difficult to do. And you might find yourself saying, no, but he says this to me all the time. Like he does this all the time and he blames me and he's saying it's my fault, but I know it's not my fault.
Yeah.
And that's all okay, but it's actually also irrelevant.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think what we have to understand is everybody is living in their own little reality.
Yeah.
And this is the whole point when we say that we are the creators of our reality. We truly are. And there is no right and wrong.
No.
You know, everybody has their own view of the world. And so we're all living in our own different realities and nobody's reality is the same.
No.
So when you are trying to get somebody else to understand and live in your reality, you're going to fail.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah.
And that means you're going to constantly feel angry, resentful, unsatisfied, unfulfilled, miserable. Because you cannot control other people.
No.
But the only thing you can control is yourself.
That's right.
And when you understand that, you begin to step out of victim mentality mode.
Yes.
And let me be clear, this isn't saying that you have to allow people to treat you badly and you accept, you know, people behaving badly around you. It isn't about that, but it is trying to step back into control and manage what you can control, and that is yourself. And when you manage yourself and your own emotions, you are in such a better place to be able to react in a way that is going to get you to where you want to be, to what you want. Because you are calmer, because you are acknowledging the feelings that you feel, but then you're doing something about it by asking, well, what is that saying about me? What do I need to work on? It opens up your awareness even more. It opens up your self-awareness, and from there it helps you to grow.
Yes.
And I think that's a really powerful tool to live with.
That's really helped me this week, coming to the realization that what you've just said, you cannot control other people's thoughts and emotions. And that's been a big light bulb for me this week, because I've got 2 children at home with me who one's suffering from anxiety, the other anxiety and depression, both possible ADHD. And I've tried to make them happy. And I thought, well, I'm their mum, I can make them happy. I've controlled them up until now. I've done everything for them. Why can't I make them happy? So I've realised literally just this week, just before having this conversation, that I can't make anybody happy. They can only do that themselves. Happiness comes from within. And I now have to step back and think, okay, I can't make anybody else happy, but I can make myself happy. So, which sounds like a selfish thing to accept. But with me viewing it in this way, it really helps me think, right, what can I do for me? And so like things like seeing my best friend Tash and doing this makes me happy. And I've just signed up for adult tap dancing, so they're all going to regret it at home when I'm tap dancing around my kitchen, but it's okay because I'll be happy.
Exactly.
So I'm hoping in me making myself happy, that will filter down to the children and they will become happier naturally. And,
Yeah.
that's what Tash is helping me to realize as well, because that is sort of victim mentality as well, isn't it? Because I'm trying to make them happy to make me happy.
That's it.
So I've got to let go of that.
And again, that is you relying on an external source, people around you, to make you feel a certain way.
Yes.
That is victim mentality,
is.
because it's
Yes.
like, well, everybody has to feel a certain way, so
Yeah.
I can feel a certain way.
That's right.
And it's about taking that personal
Yeah.
responsibility.
Yeah.
You cannot allow other people to affect the way you
Yes.
feel. I mean, you
Yes.
can, and
Yes.
honestly, I was the ultimate victim. I was the ultimate victim. um and I look back now and I just think, oh my gosh, it's actually embarrassing. But no wonder I felt so out of control. Like, I literally felt like I was adrift. I was a leaf blowing in the wind, and that wind was everybody else's mood and behavior and feelings, and they were blowing me all over the show, and I had no control of it.
No.
I gave all of my power away to everybody around me.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about, family members and close people. I would give it to anyone.
Yeah.
The bloody milkman.
Yeah.
Or, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Teachers at my kids' schools. Anybody, I would give them my power
Yeah.
away by trying to please and by trying to modify the way I behave and what I do and what I say and how I feel, so that I can try to make them feel a certain way, to then make me feel a certain way. And how ridiculous is that? Like, when you think about it, like, I mean, honestly, hearing this, how many of you realize that you're doing that?
Yeah.
I mean, people pleasers, I was the ultimate people pleaser. And I think that if you're a people pleaser, you are to some extent living in victim mentality, because you are trying to please people so that they will feel a certain way, so that you can then feel a certain way.
Yes. And that's so deep, isn't it?
So
So
deep.
much deeper than when you say, are you living in victim mentality? Oh, no, I'm not. I like my life. I don't complain. But you've just revealed there's a whole deeper layer to this to go into, and just one to be mindful of, isn't it? That's really going to help you.
Yeah, well, and it's, I think the reason that I wanted to talk about it this early on is that I think all the work that obviously I do with my clients, but also I have done on myself, because I'm like the guinea pig for my clients. I've done all of this work, and therefore now I want to kind of help others to do it. And every time I grow and do, go take a step further, I know that I can use that for my clients as they take their growth as well. But yeah, it's just getting out of victim mentality mode is the first step to empowering yourself. And it's the first step to being able to build up your self-belief, your self-esteem, your self-worth, your self-love. Because when you can realize that you are in control, then everything opens up to you.
Yeah.
and the things that seem so hard, like trying to believe that you're good enough
Mm.
to do whatever it is that you want to do, those
Yeah.
things, that the confidence, just to have the
Mm.
confidence to talk to somebody,
Mm.
or do something, stand up and do a presentation or a
Mm.
meeting at work and hold it with confidence, just all of that, any of it.
Mm.
Going and sitting in a cafe by yourself,
Yeah.
and not feeling self-conscious or
Mm.
worried about who's looking at you, what people think about
Mm.
you, all of that becomes so much easier to
Mm.
do
Yes.
when you first step out of victim
Yes.
mentality
Yes.
and realize that you can control everything.
Everything.
Everything. It's the
Yes.
key.
Because how often as well do you sort of like go to a shop and there's a grumpy shopkeeper there or whatever, and you let that affect your shopping experience?
Mm.
So there you go out and do a normal mundane thing, and your day depends on how people speak to you.
Yeah.
And that's like been a big learning curve for us, isn't it? It's like now we go out and we just chuckle, don't we? Now it's like, oh bless.
And also, it's just, you can, again, like, I would, going back to the shop example, that's a perfect example. When I have grumpy, shopkeepers, that's old, isn't it? Shopkeepers, I don't know, supermarket cashiers. I go out of my way to be extra smiley and friendly and chatty, because I'm like, I'm gonna win you over.
Yes.
You're gonna smile, and it gives me pleasure. When every time, without fail, they can't not.
I know.
Because it's infectious.
It is.
And so I don't walk out of the shop anymore and go, oh, she was so grumpy. Why would you be in customer facing jobs if you I don't do that anymore. I'm like, I made her smile. Hopefully that will like spread and change her day, And like when people cut you off in the road, or cyclists, when they like when they don't like cars. And we went through a stage where we were being abused by cyclists all the time, even when we're pedestrians, didn't we? But anyway, just going, oh, what's happened in their day to make them feel that way? Well, I choose to be happy, so I'm like, off you go. That's yours, not mine. And just carry on. And you become almost invincible.
That changes your whole day, doesn't it? Because like when we first started our dog walking around the woods and round the local roads round here, if we did have that with a cyclist, I especially, not so much you, I'd be seething for days, wasn't I? Like I let that control not just that day, the days to come. If I ever see him again, Tash, I'm gonna tell him. But now my Tashi has trained me, trained me well. I'm so much happier because now it's just we laugh, don't we, and we send them off with some love.
And it comes back to that you always have a choice.
Yes.
You get to choose how you feel at any given moment. It's nobody else's choice.
No.
And so I would say, if you don't take anything else from this, if you recognize the next time you get into maybe a heated discussion, an argument, whatever it is, with whatever person, whoever it is, if you find yourself feeling like angry because they're making you feel a certain way, be aware, use that as your chance to say, oh, I have a choice.
Yes.
They are not making me feel that way. I am choosing to allow them to make me feel that way. How do I want to feel? Well, I'm going to feel calm. I'm going to feel whatever it is you need to feel in that moment. And just watch how everything diffuses. Watch how much calmer you feel. I mean, honestly, when I started having conversation, so when I was living in victim mentality, my go-to was defensiveness. So whenever we had an argument, straight away I would be on the defensive. And when you are like that, you cannot hear another side. You cannot hear another point of view. And again, I will still say now, even looking back, and I'm thinking mostly of probably conversations I had with my husband, I'll still say that I think I was right for a lot of it. My point, I will stand firm on the point that I was trying to make. However, I also know that there was so much that I was missing because I was being defensive. And I no longer do that. I am okay to have my opinion
Mm.
and understand that that's my truth.
Yeah.
It might not be his.
Mm-hmm.
That's my truth. But
Yeah.
I don't feel like I have to defend myself so much anymore because
Yes.
I'm not allowing myself
Mm.
to get triggered by him, to
Yeah.
feel
Mm-hmm.
defensive, to feel angry.
Mm-hmm.
So I can just be calm. And also, I think a really big part of stepping out of victim mentality is learning to speak up for yourself,
Right.
to communicate.
Mm.
Because I found that when I started resentment, I found from working with clients and from working with myself, resentment quite often comes from having a feeling, having a thought about something, but never actually vocalizing it.
No.
You're never actually communicating it. And when it's almost like that gets stifled. Now, energy, emotion gets stored in our bodies.
Yeah.
Because emotions are energy.
Mm-hmm.
Emotions, energy, emotion.
Love it.
Yeah. So when when you're feeling a certain way, you're having a conversation, you have a certain thought, maybe you're disagreeing with someone, and you don't say what you want to say, you stifle it. And that could be for any kind of reason. Again, we can go back to people pleasing. There's all the things that come from trauma, like, you know, people are scared of conflict, of abandonment, they're scared of rejection. All these beliefs are playing in the background, which will stop you from saying what you want to say. But now I see, like, whenever you don't express and communicate your thoughts, your beliefs, your like true inner desires and needs, they get pushed down.
Yeah.
This energy that needs to come out gets pushed down into your body and stored in your body. And then you continue to do it, and it builds and builds, and it turns into resentment. And you have to know that this gets stored in certain areas of your body as well, depending on where your weakness is. You know, some people might find it in their tummies and they have digestive issues. Other people, like me, get it in their lower back and their hips. You know, there's different ways and areas that you can get it stored in your body, but it is being stored.
Yeah.
And eventually it's like a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Something, it's got to come out from somewhere, and then that can come out in illness.
Yeah.
You know, in disease.
Dis-ease.
Dis-ease, exactly.
Another one of my
Thank you.
favorites.
Yeah. It can come out in terms of like you just have some kind of break, your behavior changes, and it will come out in your behavior. Things, you know, you can become obsessive with shopping, or, you know, binge watching TV, food.
I was going to say food. Yeah.
Food is another one. Alcohol, gambling.
Yeah.
You know, drugs. The list is endless, and it's not all like drugs and alcohol. It's not all what you might think. There could be really small, you know, small things, but that become a way of you distracting yourself from feeling these pent up emotions, this resentment. And I'm telling you, it will come out in some way. It will come out, but all the while that it's building and festering, you are not feeling good. You're feeling unsatisfied. You know, you're feeling unfulfilled. You're feeling like you're unseen, you're unheard, you're underappreciated, you're invisible, basically. And yet you still are stifling what you're saying. And even though you want to say, even though you want to speak up,
that
you know, and that feeling, and it's almost like it's should be your tongue, but you can't. And then afterwards, after the conversation, you think, oh, why didn't I say this, or why didn't I say that? But when you communicate and express your needs, I see it now as that energy that could potentially be causing disease and getting stuck in your body is leaving. It's leaving. And when you speak up and you communicate your beliefs, your needs, your desires, your opinions without fear, because that's what it is, it's without fear, then you have this sense of calm come over you, and you no longer have to be defensive. You feel almost just satisfied that you have said everything you need to say, and no matter what response comes back from that person, you know, because usually when we're living in victim mentality mode, we want them to agree with us, or we want them to say what we want to hear. Because again, that is because we're giving our power to them. We are becoming a victim. We are letting them control how we feel.
Yeah.
So we want them to say what we want to hear, so we feel okay.
Yeah.
But actually, when you take control, step out of victim mentality, express your needs, it doesn't matter what they come back with.
No.
Whether they agree with you, whether they disagree with you, the energy has been
Mm.
diffused by you speaking out.
Yeah.
And so you're so much clearer, you're so much calmer.
Yeah.
And then you can just say, okay, I
Mhm.
appreciate your opinion, agree to disagree.
Yeah.
There's no resentment there.
No.
There's no bitterness. There's no anger. There's no, I have to be right.
Mm.
It's just, this is my opinion and I've said it. And it's so freeing.
Yes.
And honestly, I never knew what that felt. I never did it. And when I remember the first time I actually voiced what I wanted to say. I remember thinking, oh my God, that was so easy. And I feel so much better already. It was like mind blown, and it was so ridiculous at the same time, because I thought, how stupid that I've been doing this for all these years. But I have to be honest, that doesn't mean that, like, straight after that I found it easy to speak up again.
No.
It's a journey.
Oh.
You have to keep practicing.
Yeah.
And I also was doing all the work in the background
Yeah.
to release
Mm-hmm.
the fears and the beliefs that were causing me to not be able to speak up.
That's right.
Which, you know, came from childhood, which
Yeah.
came from learned patterns and behaviors. And you have to do that subconscious work.
Yeah.
Which is what I do in my programs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if anyone wants to know more about that,
Yeah.
then please do message me, because this is what I work with specifically on, you know, and you can do it by yourself. I absolutely did do this work through myself, but I had to have a whole series of unfortunate events, if you can call it. That's putting it lightly, isn't it?
Taken down.
I had to be wiped out, taken down, broken down shattered into tiny little pieces, and then build myself back up slowly on my own. And it was a slog. But then I found hypnotherapy, and I realized that, oh my God, if I had had this, I would have done it so much quicker, so much easier. And that's why I want to share it with women. I don't want people to have to go through the breakdown that I had to go through, and the struggle to try and do it on your own. I want to be there to help and to make it easier, and actually to make it an enjoyable, enlightening experience.
Exactly, yeah, which is what you always do, and you've got this ability to figure out the root cause. You go deep.
Yeah.
And it's like really powerful stuff, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's things that, you know, you do it with me all the time. It's things that I've never even thought about.
No.
And that actually maybe aren't related to the thing that I'm upset about.
100%.
And you get right down to the bottom, and you find out what it is. And
it's never got anything to do with what you think it has.
No.
Because the thing is what you're experiencing at the time is just a symptom of a much, much deeper root cause, isn't it?
Yeah.
But what you absolutely can do on your own is become aware of how you are seeing the world, of whether you are giving your power away and your personal responsibility away to other people around you. And it's not even just people. It is going back to what you said about the kind of, when you think of victim mentality, what do you think of? It is like, you know, that whole, well, life is happening to me, everything's happening to me,
unfair.
why is this happening, why is it so unfair? When you step out of victim mentality mode, you come at it from a different way. Like, what is this doing for me? How is this helping me to grow? What can I learn from this? The same thing is happening, you're just putting a different perspective on it. You're shifting the view, you're asking different questions, you're seeing it a different way. And honestly, you can do one or the other, it really doesn't matter. You, again, you get to choose. And you can, you know, some people may say, oh, you're being, you know, overly positive, or you're deluded. But honestly, if I'm deluded, I would rather be deluded any day of the week, because my life has improved 1,000,000% by being deluded. In the times where the worst things, the most difficult time of my life ever, the worst things have happened to me, I have actually been the happiest I have ever been. And it is all because I realized that I had a choice,
Yeah.
and that I choose to see things as always working out for my benefit,
Yeah.
always working out for my highest good, that there's always a way through.
Mm.
And I just choose to see it that way, because we can all choose to see it. It's just as easy to see it from a positive perspective as it is from a negative
Yeah.
perspective. And for some reason, in this society, we have all been brought up to think of the worst,
Yeah.
to think of the negative, and if you think of the positive, it's just wishful thinking.
Yeah.
No, it's not. You can think of it that way, and believe me, when you do, you will notice a change in
Mm-hmm.
what happens to you, and in doesn't mean your external world is going to change.
No.
This is the whole point. The exact same things will be happening to you, but
Exactly.
your internal world,
Mm.
because you are now no longer a victim and you are taking personal
Mm.
responsibility, you are choosing
Mm.
to see the world through a particular lens.
Yeah.
You will have the results reflected back to you in that way.
Yeah.
It's like you can have two different people, maybe siblings, going through the exact same experience,
Yeah.
and one person will go, one sibling will go one way down into a route of negativity,
Mm-hmm.
of helplessness, of I've got no control and everything's awful, and then the other sibling could go and flourish
Yeah.
and say, this is what I'm using to propel me forward, I'm going to see things in a positive way, and the same thing has happened to both of them, and yet
Yeah.
they have completely different
Yes.
results and perspectives,
Yeah.
and it is all because of what is happening in our internal reality.
Yeah.
And everything positive change wise and growth comes from being out of a victim
Yeah.
mentality.
Yeah. That's right. It just can make your life so much better. When I'm thinking of me now, like we said, I still am in victim mentality to a certain degree, so I just need to focus on that, like with take your advice. But I'm just thinking of my life now and the positive way that I view it. On paper, I've got one child, anxiety and depression, and another one with anxiety. Really on paper, my life should be a lot worse than it was a few years ago. And yet, with all the things that you're teaching me and, what we're getting into, I'm actually happier and able to deal with that. I could go and rock in a corner somewhere and just cry every day, and where's that going to get me? I've got to think positive, got to be positive, but also I've got to know that I can't control what people are feeling and thinking. I can only enrich their lives and be there to help, but I cannot control. So I'm still learning. But, a lot of people, I think, would be depressed themselves, but I've managed to flick that switch to think positively, and that, everything's going to be all right in the end, and just keep going.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And again, because you are focusing on yourself. And I think for a lot of people who are people pleasers, who are living in victim mentality, a lot of these people, not all, but a lot of them, especially people like us, are carers. We are like empathetic. We kind of care for everybody else and not for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so to start taking personal responsibility almost feels selfish,
Yeah.
because it's like, I have to look after. When you start taking personal responsibility, you realize you have to take care of yourself, because
Yeah.
that is what personal responsibility is
Yeah.
about. It's about you. And so for a lot of us, that is really difficult. It feels selfish. It feels very unfamiliar, and it's uncomfortable and difficult to do. But you must understand that the most important thing you can do is for other people, if you are a carer and you do want to help others, is to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you take care of yourself, as you said, and as we said before, you are only in control of yourself. You cannot control other people's feelings, and if you try, you will always fail. You
Yeah.
always fail, and you will never feel good.
No.
However, you can absolutely control your feelings. You will win. You will see results. You will see that you can make a difference. And And when you become that brighter version of you, that happier version
Yeah.
of you, other people will benefit from it
Yeah.
in so many different ways. It will be reflected in your behavior, in your energy, in your thoughts, in the way you talk to people,
Yeah.
in the way you're there for people. Them looking at you and seeing your behavior will encourage them
Yeah.
to be different, because you are no longer focusing on them and what's out of your control. You're focusing on yourself. And if we just go back to everything is energy again, which I feel like we will in every episode, but when you think about it, and I explained this to you earlier, didn't I?
Yeah.
If we think about it in terms of physics and energy, there is a law called the law of resonance. And well, I think we spoke about it in one of the, in maybe it was in the last one, with the tuning forks. With the tuning fork. So
Oh,
if
yes.
you
Yeah.
bang one tuning fork of one frequency, if you have another one of the same frequency,
Yeah.
it will continue to resonate. So you've got I
I
know.
love that. So
And we're
that's
human. It's
science.
science, and this is us. So we are vibrating, balls of energy.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's the law of resonance, but then there's also another law, and it's the law of entrainment. And that means that whatever, if something is vibrating at a certain level, the other vibrations around it, if this vibration is strong enough vibration, the other vibrations that might be lower will entrain, will come up to meet that resonance as well, to meet that vibration. And so when I think about it, this is how I understand scientifically, from my scientific mind, that me working on myself and me raising my own vibration by being happier, by fulfilling myself, by finding my own happiness, I will be emitting, or I will be vibrating at a higher rate.
Yeah.
And so those around me
Wow.
will have to entrain with me, and that will lift them up, and they won't even know. They won't even have to actively do anything. I won't have to actively do anything, but just my energy being at that higher level will cause them to come up to me.
Yeah.
And so my mission is always, when I'm working with my clients and I'm helping people in that way, or just when I'm living my life with my family and my friends, the person in the shopkeeper, let's call her a shopkeeper, I like that. The shopkeeper, like the person on the bike who's giving me the finger. I literally am like, I will shine my light so bright, because I'm quite visual, so I like to see my energy as a light.
Yeah.
But basically, I will have my vibration so high and so strong that people will have to resonate to me. And that is great, because I'm focusing on myself, but I also know, because I'm a carer and because I like to, help people and make people feel good, as long as they want to, don't force it on them, it's out of my control. But I know that will help them, because they will have to meet me. It's like when you smile at someone, you can't help but smile back.
Exactly.
That is it. So it's in the little things as well,
It
isn't it? I know, I feel like I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent there, but it is all to say, just focus on yourself.
Yeah.
Take personal responsibility.
Yes.
And a little tip is, if you feel you'll find yourself saying you, rather than you've slipped back into victim mentality.
Yeah.
Always ask, why is that triggering me?
Yeah.
Why am I feeling like this?
Yeah.
Why am I allowing that person or this situation to make me feel this way?
Yeah.
And as soon as you ask that, you will open yourself up to discover something new about yourself, something that you can change, or just look into a little bit deeper. And it will make you a more calm, a more happier, content person.
Yeah.
Because you will no longer have all those emotions attached to other people.
That's right.
You know.
We are separate. I think we tend to merge and don't see each other as individuals so much. And we should, like you say, we're all living different realities. We've all got different perspectives. And I think sometimes when you live in a house full of people, you think they should all be living in your reality, and they're not.
No.
It's so different.
Yeah. And also, I think when you step into your personal, responsibility, out of victim mentality mode and into your kind of own empowerment, one of the benefits of that is that you become more compassionate, you become more open to seeing other people's views and understanding that that is okay for them to have their view. That's not how you see the world, but you understand that is how they see the world, and that's just as valid. And you don't have to have everybody agree with you.
No.
You don't have to see the world in
No.
the same way, but you can understand why they would see it that way and be okay with that. When you take personal responsibility, you don't need other people to validate your feelings,
No.
to agree with you,
No.
because it's irrelevant, because you validate yourself.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
it.
That's brilliant.
I think we need to end it on that, don't
Oh,
we?
game changer.
So, what all I would want to say is, has this opened your mind a little bit towards maybe thinking about whether you're living in victim mentality? Did you know you were living in victim mentality, or did you think you weren't, but now you think you are? Or are you on this conscious kind of like path and journey to not being a victim and to taking control?
Yeah.
And also, I'd like to ask, does this conversation trigger you in any way? Does it make you feel a little bit kind of angry or defensive when I say that you have control over yourself and you get to choose, and it's not somebody else's actions that's making you feel a certain way? Does that make you feel angry or defensive?
Do you know what that would have made me feel angry once upon a time? Someone telling me that.
Chris, my husband used to say it to me all the time, like,
Yeah.
I'm not making you feel this way, you're choosing to feel this way. Oh my God. That used to rile me up so much, and now I laugh because I think, oh, he's so wise. He was my teacher. He's so wise. But yeah, so that I would be really interested. So
yeah.
don't forget that we've set up the podcast community group over on Facebook. You can find the link in the episode notes. Please come over and join us there. We really want to make this a space where we can kind of continue the chat from the podcast. You can let us know what you thought, your thoughts on the podcast, and we can have, we're thinking of, we could do lives, we could do Q&As, we just want to be able to talk to you and interact with you to see kind of what you're thinking and your thoughts and where you are on your kind of journey.
That's right. Yeah, we just want to all learn from each other and support each other, don't we?
And again, the more you share a space with people of the same mind and like this kind of positive energy, always looking for how, we can help ourselves, it rubs off.
It does.
And it's kind of self-perpetuating as well. And it's just good to be around, especially if you aren't living around people that are necessarily thinking this way. It can be difficult if you're surrounded by a lot of people who are in victim mentality and firmly set in their ways, and are therefore, if you're in victim mentality, most of the time you have a negative perspective. So it's difficult to be around people like that when you're trying to be positive yourself. So this is why we want this group here, so that you can share in the positive energy, the positive vibes, and we can all entrain and resonate with each other.
Amazing. All grow together.
Yeah, exactly.
Learning all the time.
That's it. Always. So thank you so much for joining us once again for the podcast.
Lovely.
If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure that you share it with someone you might find who might find it helpful. Don't forget to follow us so that you get updated every time we release a new episode. And we would so appreciate it if you could leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast on, because it will help us to get out there and reach more people that would like to hear what we have to say.
Yes, please.
Thank you so much,
Thank you, guys.
We'll see you next time. Bye.